Okay, let's go through the questions then. This is your question paper, and this is what it will look like if you do the exam on paper. So you've got page 1, then you've got the page where you put your details and the general information and instructions for the exam. So it's going to last 1 hour. You try and answer all the questions. The marks will be shown for each question, and the maximum number you can get is 30. It says, read each question carefully. You do not need to write in complete sentences. And this is the thing about, this is your reading exam. So there aren't any marks for spelling, punctuation, grammar, anything like that. Just get the answer down. I'm not saying don't write in sentences, because sometimes, you want the examiner, you want to show the examiner that you've understood, but there's no need. There's no marks for nice sentences. And dictionaries are allowed, however, I don't think they're particularly useful, and you haven't got time, have you, in the exam to be looking things up. But if you that maybe it's there as a comfort. Anyway, let's get on and have a look at the questions. First thing is you read the source document. So we've had a look at just one sort of the source document so far, and we're going to answer questions 1 to 6. It says, it reminds you here, make sure you refer to document 1 when answering questions 1 to 6, because it's easy in the exam when you're under time pressure, to waste time looking at the wrong document. So just be very careful about that. Always read, double check. So what are 2 organisational features is your first question, is about organisational features. I'm going to highlight that because you will always have a question about organisational features, sometimes called layout features, sometimes called presentational features. Sometimes the question will be in a different way, presented in a different way, but you'll always be tested on, do you understand why the text has been laid out and spaced out, and some things are bigger and some things are grouped together, put in boxes, all of that's, capital letters, anything like that, that's about how it's presented on the page. This is an organisational feature, and it's a skill to do that well. So there'll always be questions about it. So what are 2 organisational features that have been used to help the reader locate the 4 main pieces of advice on keeping resolutions? And that's what organisational features do. They help the reader to locate information and to understand it. But the main thing is it helps the reader to find the right information. So 2 we're looking for, and 2 marks. If we just go back to have a look at the source document, we can see here that it's all very nicely presented, isn't it? We've got a main title here, and then we've got who's written it underneath, all nice and clear. Then we've got a paragraph, then we've got subheading, image, paragraph, subheading, image, paragraph. Lots of different features here, but the question was specifically, how has the writer used organisational features to help the reader find the different areas about resolutions? So specifically, really, these are the subheadings, because these subheadings explain each different section, don't they, to help the reader navigate the page. So the main thing here is, and it's not so important to remember that it's called a subheading, but it's important to notice what this bit of text is doing. What is its job? So if you said that this was written in bold, because it's bold text, it's darker text, that would absolutely be fine. Darker text to divide up the paragraphs, to divide up the different sections. You can explain in whatever words you want, but you need to show the examiner that you understand what this is here for. And also these images, you can call them images or pictures, or even diagrams, whatever comes to you in the exam. They're not really diagrams, are they? But the point is that it's not the subject terminology that's really crucial in this exam. It's the understanding and showing the examiner that you understand how the text has been presented on the page. So, and actually, if we look at the mark scheme, let me just show you. So these are the options that you've got for answering number 1. You only need to say 2 things. I would say subheadings and images. That would be the most obvious things to me. But look, you can call them pictures, icons, clip art. You can talk about, you can note paragraphs or sections. The centre justification, the fact that the subheadings are in the middle to draw attention to them, or call them short, snappy sentences. As long as you show the examiner that you understand what is meant by the question. Okay, so 2 marks, I would put subheadings and images. Okay, those are the 2 features that help to locate the 4 main pieces of advice on keeping resolutions. I'm spending quite a bit of time on this question because the organisational features are important. So, number 2, find 2 things that Suki says that, notice I'm not saying the surname, I think it's Tanaka, but I'm not sure how to pronounce it. So find 2 things that Suki says that suggest she personally struggles to meet her resolution goals. So when we look through the text, I noticed straight away that she was being very chatty and friendly. And the first thing that she said, it was that I noticed, was least of all me. She talks about herself, and this is very personal, isn't it? A news that surprised no one, least of all me. And then going further down, the other part that I remember, you may have noticed other things as well. She says, and I hope you all have better luck than I've had. That personal pronoun I is in there as well. So I would copy that. I might start from there, I think. Okay, from I hope you all, I'd copy that. And I would copy least of all me. And those I would hope would be my 2 marks there. If we just go and have a quick look and see what it says in the mark scheme, there are other options as well. Much needed light. So suggests she personally struggles to meet her personal goals. So she's saying it's much needed. That's her opinion, isn't it? And okay, this is not as encouraging. No wonder I struggle to stay on target. Okay, all personal opinions from Suki. So let's go back to the question paper. Number 3. Give 3 words or phrases that are opinions from the first paragraph of the document. And as I said, most of what's in a document, in a text, whatever we're looking at, is going to be opinion. However, if I remember correctly, in the first paragraph, make sure you're looking in the right place. In the first paragraph, there's a lot of statistics, aren't there, in here as well? So statistics, we can say in the exam, okay, for exam purposes, if you see research or statistics, those are facts in the exam. Okay, we know in real life that sometimes statistics may not be factual. However, in the exam, we can assume they're facts. Okay, and we can distinguish between the facts here and then the opinion. So again, we want the personal bits then, don't we? That is Suki's opinion. This bit here, in news that surprises no one. Okay, she's saying that this will surprise no one. That's only her opinion. There very well might be somebody out there who is surprised. And here we've got another one as well. There's another bit of opinion from Suki, but there's the good news. Again, somebody might think that's not good news. This bit that we looked at before, much needed light, that's her opinion, that it's much needed. So there's 3. I'm going to just take you to the mark scheme and let's just see. Yeah, so you see how short these phrases are. I would be more inclined to write a little bit more out. But surprises no one, disappointing, good. These. If you're describing something using a describing word, often words like good and bad and awful and fantastic. These are obviously opinions, aren't they? So those are the types of words and phrases you need to be looking for, and make sure when there's 3 marks available, you need to be giving all 3. Okay. Why does Professor Anya Flores think so many resolutions fail on January the 2nd? And this is about general understanding of what this professor has said. Make sure that you're looking in the right place at the right professor. So let's go to the text. The options are: the habit has not had long enough to form. It's not the right time to make a change. The goals set are unrealistic and there's not enough motivation to succeed. So we just go back and double check. Anya Floors is here. Professor Anya Floors, she says, so this is the quote: we studied 800 new goal setters and we found that the recent movers had the most success. Changing your habits can be a nightmare, and finding the right moment to make a change is even worse. Okay, finding the right moment to make a change is even worse. Okay, that's the key bit, isn't it? Many resolutions are made on December the 31st and go down the drain on January the 2nd. So of all of these phrases, okay, none of them are outrageously wrong or off the mark, are they? But this one is the one that seems to be. It's not the right time. Let's just get rid of that a minute. It's not the right time to make a change. Okay, and you just get 1 mark for ticking 1 box. Question number 5. Which of the following people uses a formal tone? Remember, I told you that you always need to be noticing the tone. You're always going to get a question about tone. Is it humorous? Is it friendly? Is it formal? Serious? Angry? There's lots. Tone is the mood or the emotion in the piece, okay? So we always want to be looking out for that and notice it the first time you're reading it, if you can. So which of the following people uses a formal tone throughout their quoted comment in document 1? And then we're choosing between the 3 professors and the doctor. So I remember noticing this, and I think it was the first one, wasn't it, that we got to. So if we just go to the top here. So this is the first professor, Lucy Daniels. And this was the one, remember I pointed out the use of moreover. This was the one that was serious. There was no jokey chattiness at the end like in this one. Okay, so Professor Lucy Daniels, if you just take a bit of time, I won't read it to you now, but obviously pause the video, have a look. That's the one that is more formal, and you can just see the language and there's no jokiness in there. So you would just tick that box there. Number 6, and this is the last one for the first paper, the first source paper. Apart from formal language, okay, so again we're talking about tone, identify 2 language techniques. Okay, so they're referring to the tone of a piece of writing as a language technique. I want you to think of language techniques as everything you do in your writing. Everything you do is a technique. Okay, it's of communicating, but some are easier to label than others, if you like. So obviously questions are easy to label, and jokes, metaphors, but everything we do is a technique. And when we try and be persuasive, or we try and make people trust what we're saying, we try even harder with our language techniques. So it's saying here, identify 2 more language techniques used in document 1 to convince the reader the information and advice is trustworthy. Okay, so this is the key word here. Language techniques that make us think that she's trustworthy. And as we went through, what did we see? Loads of statistics and research, expert opinion. Yeah, so all of those things are language techniques. Those are all things that Suki did. She was like, I'll if I go and speak to a professor and get their opinion, then people will really trust what I'm saying. Okay, so what you have to do here, you need to name the language technique. So here you might put statistic, and then you find the example of the statistic and put it underneath. Okay, then you might have here another language technique, maybe expert opinion, and then underneath here you find the quote from the text. So you could choose straight away, right at the beginning, she's trying to make herself sound trustworthy by saying 1 in 10. No, let's not use that. We can do better than that. Hang on. Behavioural scientists have discovered, there's good news. Science has shed much needed light. So she's not saying I'm going to shed some light. She's saying science. Okay, so straight away we think, oh well, if science is, if it's science that's saying it, for scientists, then we must be able to trust what we're reading. And again, we've got research from Leeds University here. And we've got statistics. Let's just go and have a quick look in the mark scheme and see just how many, so this is question 6, just how many examples we could use, and they're going to be a really long list now. So apart from formal language, 2 language techniques that could be used to convince the reader advice is trustworthy, and here you've got facts and figures. Okay, so that was statistics. Again, and remember, it's not important what you call it as long as you call it something, so you're showing that you know what you're talking about. And then here's the quote, 1/4 or 1 in 10. You could use either of those. Okay, citing research. So that, using research, you could use referring to research or citing experts. Quoting from, you could also say, okay, quoting from experts, and then you put the quote, research from Leeds University found, according to Ramesh Mato, the professor of social psychology, So you need to back it up with the evidence from the text. Direct quotes. We studied 800, so remember all of the professors given a quote in speech marks. This is another way that Suki is making us trust what she's saying. We've also got questions and answers. So what's the reason for this disappointing statistic? That's not such an obvious one to make us trust, but it's still a language technique that's used in the text to engage us, isn't it? And to make us as the reader be asking the right questions. We've got personal experience. When she refers to herself and she uses that chatty, friendly tone, that makes us trust her as a person, because we think, oh, she's nice and friendly, she's like us. And when she makes her life familiar and she's not being judgmental of other people, she's saying, oh, I'm not very good at keeping resolutions, that makes us feel a warmth towards the writer. So no wonder I struggle to stay on target. Makes her seem like a nice, friendly person, and we trust her. Direct address comes up a lot, and that just means that the writer is speaking directly to you. So if you see the pronoun you, we can call that direct address. Directly talking. She's directly talking to you, the reader. And there's the quote. Now you just have to put it to good use. Inclusive language. Again, you could call it inclusive language, or just highlight, look, the another pronoun there, we. She's involving us all. We're all in it together, like we all thought, making us sort of, the writer and the reader join together. Persuasive language. This is very general, and I don't like this one being in the mark scheme, to be honest, because it's all of it persuasive. This is a little too general and not specific for me. But the science behind sticking to your resolutions. I mean, this is using science to be persuasive, isn't it? I would say that I would call that quoting from science. But then we've got idioms, shed light on. You could call that a metaphor. Then we've got conversational, colloquial, chatty, familiar, friendly. Yeah, this call it what you like, but she's being chatty and friendly. Here's a nice one to begin with, okay? So try and describe it as best you can. We've got humour, so it just goes on and on. We've got humour. Oops, no wonder I struggled to stay on target. Self-depreciating language. Contrasting expert with non-expert. Those clever psychologists. Here's one that's very important. I would like everybody to... You don't need to learn all of these, okay? You just need to be able to spot language techniques and make sure you know what you're going to call it in the exam. Okay, you don't need to learn all of these. I would just hope, make sure that I can recognise chatty language and just stick with this one, for example. But this word here, please learn it and understand what it means, because it's in everything. Everything that you read will contain some bias, and pretty much, and certainly in the exam it will. And it's important that it's a real skill to be able to recognise it. So bias is strong, one-sided opinion, and people use biased opinions or present something in a biased way because they're trying to they're trying to persuade you of something. They might be trying to sell you something, or they want you to they want you to think the same thing as them. So it's when people we can call it opinion presented as fact as well. Sometimes you'll see that phrase, opinion presented as fact is bias often. Okay, so it's crucial not to set vague goals. It's this strong language here that makes it bias. You could say it's important not to set vague goals, and if you said it's important, that would be an opinion, but this is a really strong word. It's crucial. That means you absolutely must do it. And when people start using that really strong, you must, it's the best, it's incredibly important. As soon as you start getting really almost emotional about it, this is when it becomes bias. Okay, it's crucial not to set vague goals. Hyperbole is another one that you see a lot of, and that's just another way of saying exaggeration. In news that surprises no one, not one person in the world. Okay, so it's a very strong statement, and clearly you couldn't, you could never prove that, could you? So this is what we call hyperbole, exaggerating. Sarcasm, in news that surprises no one. And a reassuring or encouraging tone. Okay, so you notice that some of these come up more than once, and you can call them different things, and it doesn't matter as long as you're acknowledging that you recognise that these have been used for a particular effect. Okay, so back to now we've done 6 questions, so now we're going to go back to the source documents